on. Hi, everyone. I'm Holly Alfano, ILMA CEO, and I would like to thank you for joining our session today. Before we get into the program, I wanted to let you know that next month's session is going to be a great topic. It's scheduled for March 17th. As you may know, ILMA recently sent out an alert that OSHA has issued a proposal with changes to the hazard communication standard to align it with the 7th revision of GHS and to address issues from the implementation of the last updates in 2012. ILMA has been reviewing the proposal very carefully. It's about 400 and some odd pages. So it was just published yesterday in the Federal Register. And in our next town hall, we're very fortunate to have Janet Carter, senior scientist at OSHA, who has taken the lead on this rulemaking. Janet will go over the rulemaking process and also give a high-level overview of the changes and any questions you may have. So watch your email. I know everyone is going to have a lot of questions about this issue, and we'll be sending out registration information soon, March 17th. So now I want to turn over the program to our 2021 president, Chuck Decker. Chuck?
Holly, thank you very much, and welcome all. And again, thanks for joining us as we discuss a topic that is becoming an important issue for manufacturers of all sizes: sustainability. Our goal today is to give manufacturers some simple steps that can be taken to implement sustainability practices within their manufacturing and also business practices. I would also like to thank Chevron Ornite as our exclusive sponsor for ILMA LubeTrends town halls this year. In recent days, as you're all aware, and Holly already mentioned it earlier, we've been in touch with, or not me, but Holly and the staff has been in touch with Chevron Ornite in Houston. They've been through a lot with this winter storm, and it's affected a lot of people in the Texas area and other areas of the South. Loss of power, water, et cetera, especially the water situation, which I just saw some news on, which isn't good. So Mike DiBattista was supposed to be with us today, and he's not going to be able to make it. He is manager of North American sales for Chevron, and he did want to be with us. Unfortunately, due to the storm, he's not going to be able to join us. So, but we want to thank Chevron Ornite for their sponsorships. Holly, why don't you take it from here?
Sure. I want to introduce our panelists to get this started. We have 3 really great panelists today. First is Valentina Serra-Holm. Valentina is Business Development Manager for Chorus Group and President of our European Sister Association, UEIL. She brings more than 2 decades of industry and academic experience in the fields of lubricant, base oil products research, technology and applications, manufacturing, global market development, and branding. Thanks, Valentina, for joining us. Next, we have Mark Miller. Mark is CEO of Biosynthetic Technologies and a serial entrepreneur with a special emphasis on bio and sustainable technologies. Prior to coming to Biosynthetic Technologies, he co-founded and was CEO of Terrasol Technologies Limited, an environmentally safe chemical products company. He led the organization from startup until its exit, creating a multi-million-dollar, highly profitable global industry leader. Next, we have Richard Camper. Richard is the Executive Vice President for Pacific Precision Formulators, PPF, a specialty fluids manufacturer in Vernon, California. His responsibilities include sales and marketing, product development, and supplier engagement for his company's core offering of metalworking fluids, food-grade lubricants, and high-performance lubricants. He is also on ILMA's board of directors. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us to discuss this very important topic today. I want to remind the attendees, you have the ability to pose questions. There's a Q&A icon at the bottom of right side of your screen, and you can pose questions at any time. Oh, I'm sorry, the top right of your screen. Also, at the end, if you want to raise your hand and ask a question that way, we can try that. I don't know that we've ever done that before, but we'll give it a try. So I want to just say that today what we're going to be discussing is we're not going to get into specific products, and we're not going to get into any kind of pricing issues, because I know that I would immediately get a phone call from Jeff Leiter, and I want to avoid that. So with that said, Mark, and I'm going to start with Mark. Mark, what are some first steps that an ILMA member, manufacturing member, can take towards moving towards sustainability?
That's a great question, Holly. Thank you for that. And my first recommendation would be for anybody is take baby steps, right? Do the little things first, start making some movement in the right direction, look at low energy lighting, look at collecting your paper and recycling paper. You can start looking at collecting and sending off to re-refining some oils, and then maybe start to explore a little bit about bio-based components.
Okay. Richard, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think Mark kind of hit the nail there. There's some low-hanging fruit where you can really increase your sustainability scorecard. And I think reducing the carbon footprint from your organization is key. And I think from the manufacturing side, there are a couple of things we can do there, and it revolves around energy efficiency. If you're in a strictly manufacturing environment, you can look at reducing your energy consumption by switching maybe more high-performance lubricants throughout your organization. All those moving parts that we have in the manufacturing facility eat up a lot of energy. If you have a fleet, maybe you can move towards the fluids in your fleet that will let your fleet run more efficiently and reduce fuel consumption. And right out of the gate, right there, you really are reducing your carbon footprint, improving your sustainability. And then the other one, which Mark kind of touched on, was if you go to introducing some bio-based raw materials into your product offering, that also reduces your carbon footprint and improves your sustainability. So I think that there are some things that we can look at from an ILMA member right out of the gate that can be very helpful.
How about you, Valentina? Can you recommend a small step a manufacturer can take to move in the direction of sustainability?
Well, I agree with the gentleman. There are many small and bigger steps companies can take. What I would like to add is that the most important thing is actually to make this into a company-wide goal. So it shall not be perceived like a top-down exercise, but rather a bottom-up exercise. This will have two advantages. One is that each team can come up with ideas on how they can contribute to improve the sustainability of a company's operations. So it can be administration, thinking of using less paper, or maintenance that will use, as we said, low energy lighting, etc. But it can go as far as someone in R&D developing a more energy efficient manufacturing process. So nobody like the people in the team can come up with initiatives and ideas on how to improve the sustainability, the operations of the company. At the same time, by doing that, you engage all your staff in a vision, in a journey. You take everybody on board from the beginning, and you make that into a vision for the company, which, by the way, will have a very important side effect. At least what we see in Europe is that engineers that graduate now want a job that is meaningful. They want to make an impact. They, I see my daughter picking jobs, and she studies vehicle engineering, and I see really fancy jobs that I would have liked when I graduated. And she challenges the ethical aspects of those jobs and so on. So we become also more attractive to a young talent if we embark in a journey that is a vision of the company, and we really make our company more attractive, simply.
I think you make an excellent point, Valentina. The next generation, or the younger generation, definitely wants to have a meaningful experience at work, and they want to embrace the sustainability culture. Mark, what changes have you seen in the market's perception of sustainability?
Holly, thank you for that's a great question. When I first got into the biolubricant space, it was sort of the middle 90s. We may remember green as actually a color, and sustainability was more of a good idea and a feel-good thing. And what the industry was looking at was, can you do bio-based materials? Will it biodegrade in the environment? Is it low toxicity? So we really were sort of a fledgling idea. And then as the industry got more mature and more people entered the marketplace, the bar got raised to, can it compete on a price perspective? Because nobody wants to spend a ton of money just because they want to be green. Will it meet the same performance requirements that a petroleum product does? Because our equipment doesn't care whether it's green or sustainable. It cares that it works. And then most recently, the bar went to the roof with people looking at life cycle assessments, with people looking at the carbon footprint, looking at the social and economic aspect from sustainabilities. So we as an industry have really focused on much, much higher levels of sustainability from over the past couple of decades.
Which brings up, we hear the initials, the acronym ESG. Richard, what is ESG and why is that important?
ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, and it started out as an investment theory where private equity or investors in general would steer their dollars towards those companies that had a commitment to, as the words spell out, the environment, society around them, helping out in the communities, one way of putting it, and governance, which would be company governance, how you run your company. And if what I would invite everyone to Google Larry Fink BlackRock in his annual letter. It's a real powerful piece that talks about ESG investing and where it's going. I heard a number the other day that like 80% of all investments over the last year have gone towards some kind of ESG kind of concept, and it's trickling down, not trickling down, but it's taken over larger corporations in the way they think. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl, the Will Ferrell ad of "We're Coming Norway" was funny, but GM's going to go all electric by 2035. Ford just announced $29 billion investment to go for electric vehicles. This is part of sustainability. They know where they need to go. So when those kind of companies start demanding sustainability and ESG concepts, that's going to trickle down to their suppliers, and they're going to have that demand. Infrastructure, there's a good chance it's going to come. And if you look at the makeup of the current administration and who's going to make those decisions, if you don't think that ESG scorecard is going to be a part of that, I think you might want to rethink that. I think some of us may kind of roll our eyes about ESG and say, oh, here, another green initiative. But when companies like Ford and GM take it seriously, I think it's something we really need to consider. And I'll leave you with one thing on ESG. you can do a little research. Talk to someone in your life who likes the restaurant chain Chipotle. This was a company whose food was killing people a few years ago. It has not only rebounded and grown, but it's really prospered. And their Super Bowl commercial was all about sustainability, and they're all about technology. And Chipotle, it's not my gig, but there's a generation out there who believes in Chipotle for whatever reason. And I think if you talk to those people and kind of peel back the onion why they like that place, I think you'd be really, really surprised at what you hear about what's important to them. I think it kind of dovetails in what Valentina was talking about a younger generation and what they want to see, where they eat, where they work, and just how they run their lives. So it's ESG is here, and I think if we can all demonstrate a commitment to ESG, it's going to be helpful for our company. So that's my 2 cents on the ESG piece of it.
Holly, if I could amplify a little bit about what Richard had said. We get calls, we do bio-based components, and we get calls regularly from customers who have the investment community. BlackRock is one specifically mentioned, but multiple investment communities driving them to improve their ESG. So you've got an ESG guideline right now. What are you going to do tomorrow? And how are you going to do better? So it's an idea whose time has come, and amping on or riffing on what Richard had said, it's being driven from the financial perspective as well as young people, as Valentina had said.
While I have the two of you, it's my understanding that some of the customers that lubricant manufacturers may be working for might be asking about a individual's ESG scorecard. Can you expand on that a little bit? Richard, maybe can you tell me, in the lubricants industry, what does that look like?
Yeah, and I think when you look at ESG, and if you're going to put, I think the word scorecard's a really good phrase for it, is how are you showing commitment towards ESG? And if you can, it sounds maybe a little fuzzy or on the outset, but if you can, take pieces of it, how are you demonstrating your environmental commitment? And that's a big sustainability part of it. If you can reduce your carbon footprint, you really are showing people that that you're making a commitment. The social part of it, I mean, it's community involvement. I think a lot of our ILMA members, you see that's a big part of their culture, is being involved in their community. You see it all the time, and highlighting that is a big part. And then the governance, I think we have a lot of diversity within the ownership and the management for the ILMA members, and highlighting that diversity is another way to increase your scorecard. So it's not maybe as daunting as you think. Reducing your carbon footprint, highlighting what you do for the community, and showing the diversity within your organization. You really can put together an impressive ESG scorecard for those customers that are demanding it. And if infrastructure comes out and that's part of it, it may be a document you want to have available to show folks.
Valentina, what changes have you observed on the European side of manufacturing, and particularly smaller companies, as they change their business and manufacturing processes to be more sustainable?
Well, I would say that especially small manufacturers in Europe are really at the beginning of the journey. So if you, except for those companies that whose business is based on sustainability, take refiners, take bio lubricant suppliers, most of small European companies, lubricant blenders, are at the beginning of the journey. What I must say I have observed is an incredible enthusiasm, passion, dedication, and commitment of all our members that have engaged themselves in our sustainability committee. Seeing how much time and resources individuals are spending supported by their companies, by their employers in this work, and seeing the progress that we are making really is a sign that, again, this is not something that we are doing because we are supposed to do it, but we are doing because we believe in it. So I would say that the main change I have seen so far is a change in mentality, is a change in approach. And when you have that, results will come. So I'm very positive about it.
I think Valentina, that there's as you had mentioned before, there's a very strong commitment for the sustainability in Europe as well as North America at all levels of the organization, where you have the senior executive is coming out with something, but the folks on the floor are doing that as well, and everybody is committed and doing their part to enhance the sustainability of the overall organization, because the time is now.
Absolutely. And we have never had so many people that wanted to join a committee before. And actually, the interesting thing is that all those people are actually working hard. It's not just people that want to be on board because they want to listen what everybody else is doing. It's people that really put hours and efforts in this. So I would say that the mentality is the biggest change.
I actually got a question for you, Valentina. Are European suppliers responding to the EU Green Deal and the new EU ESG disclosure directive?
Definitely, that is a big driver. No doubt about it. If you think that the European Green Deal, that has the ambition of making Europe the first carbon neutral continent by 2050, has put aside a budget of 1 trillion euros only for this. And then on top of this, people were expecting that the pandemic would slow down this investment and this focus. In reality, it's the opposite, because if we look at the 750 billion euros recovery plan, the next generation EU that has been agreed by the EU around May 2020, you can see first that 30% of that must go into climate change mitigation projects. And on top of that, all projects that will be submitted for investment will be vetted against green criteria. So there is really an enormous drive at EU level, at EU authorities level in terms of sustainability. And it was set by the new administration. They came in place in 2019. That was one of their 4 priorities. And it was really to make Europe a greener continent, but also in an inclusive, fair way that would not leave anybody behind. So it should not come at someone's expenses, but it should really be inclusive. So it should be ultimately a better place. And I would draw a parallel with REACH. REACH was initially perceived as, well, it was also a huge headache for all producers, but the intentions of REACH were noble, because it was to limit the use of toxic compounds, because, you know, it's not really about what you do in a factory when you have good protection, etc. It's what you do at home when you don't know what you are handling in your cleaning agents and so on. So I would say, and it's also about what you breathe, because at least in Europe, there has been a lot of public discussion about a potential connection between pollution and the spread of the virus. So, I mean, I would say that really, yes, there is definitely a regulatory drive, but really that is simply interpreting and representing something that has been in a matter of public concern in Europe for at least 10 plus years, I would say.
And Valentina, you're talking about REACH. I think REACH and the Lusk list has really made it much easier for the lubricant formulators, both in Europe and in North America, to use safer ingredients. I mean, it's very easy for any compounder to go on the Lusk list, look for the safest ingredients in their category, and be able to utilize that. Where before that, I mean, it was a pain in the neck, and doing it again was even a bigger pain in the neck. But once it was done, it became a very effective tool for greener and safer materials.
Mark, what typically do you take into account when evaluating sustainability?
That, it's a hard question to answer because people are looking at sustainability from many different perspectives, and it's a moving kind of target. But when we look at it, what we want to begin with the social impacts. How does it affect people, or is it displacing jobs? Is it creating jobs? What's it doing for the economy and people? Is it putting people to work? Are the ingredients competing with other important things like food? Are we cutting down rainforests to make these? Sort of the Greener Palm initiative. Of course, one looks at carbon footprint, and is it larger? Is it smaller? And when you're looking at the carbon footprint, it's got to be sort of every step of the way, from the raw materials to the manufacturing to the transportation. You need to look at transportation, of course, and manufacturing. What are the best practices? Richard mentioned energy efficient lubricants. Are you using energy efficient lubricants in your manufacturing facilities? Are you utilizing them in your fleets? That's going to reduce or improve your sustainability, reduce your carbon footprint in moving products around the globe. And then finally, what is the end of life of the material? Is it re-refinable? Is it recyclable? Is it biodegradable? What are people doing with it at the end of its life?
Right. You mentioned efficient lubricants and how there's some ways that lubricants can reduce carbon footprint. Do you have any other examples that you can share?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we all need to sort of give ourselves a pat on the back in the lubricant industry, because we really are a sustainable organization or a sustainable marketplace. If you think about most 30% of global energy is used to overcome friction or something along those lines. We, as an industry, our mission, our method, our reason to live is to reduce friction. So by creating efficient lubricants, right, we're already reducing the energy required to operate trucks and trains and hydraulic systems and things like that. So I think that's one way that we're reducing footprint. Richard said it also again. Sorry, man, I'm just riffing on everything you said already. You nailed it in the beginning, so I'm just taking brilliant ideas and saying them again. Energy, long life, right? So by extending the useful life of the oil, you're reducing the amount of oil that you need to use. And it's a very strong and very good way to reduce your carbon footprint by extending the useful life of the lubricant. And then finally, when you're shipping products around the world, right, you're using, maritime transportation or trains or trucks, and by utilizing them with efficient lubricants that we as an industry are supplying, that is reducing the carbon footprint.
Okay. I'm looking at questions here. I'm going to get to those here in a minute. Valentina, UEIL has really taken a leadership position on this issue with the creation of the Sustainability Committee. Can you tell me about that, and what is the mission of the committee?
Yes, the mission of the committee is, first of all, to increase awareness around sustainability within our industry and the need for good practices. And most importantly, it is to provide support to all our members that want to embark into a sustainability journey, provide guidance, especially to small companies that are facing most obstacles in doing that because they have less resources, less staff, and also to find a common ground to set standards that are valid for all companies. Because at the end of the day, if you measure, for instance, if you set a standard that you have to reduce emission by X, you need to decide how you measure that, what is your starting point. So setting a standard that is accepted by the whole community is really extremely important in order to have measurable tools. At the same time, doing that in a sustainable way, so in an easy way that is not a burden and it's not unreasonable for SMEs. And that is why it was important to have on board a broad representation of small and medium companies, because those are really the core of our association, but also to have suppliers, to have additive manufacturers, and to have end users, so that really we are able to cover the whole value chain. So in a nutshell, that is what we are trying to achieve.
Richard, what would you recommend to companies that are looking to improve their ESG scorecard? I know we mentioned a lot of little suggestions. Do you have any other recommendations?
I think it's the only other thing I would talk about is, and I think Valentina made the point of it's a real organizational cultural thing that you're embarking on, and it's not just a management flavor of the month where we're going to produce a document, we're going to have a couple meetings about it, and then we're going to throw it in a drawer and away we go. I think if you can communicate that your organization is shifting its thinking and its culture towards an ESG or sustainable model, that's really key. So communicating what you're doing to your customers, to your suppliers, to your community, and having a real effective communication tool for that. I think it's using digital marketing to get that out there, get that message out to whoever it needs to get to, but show that it's a cultural and organizational commitment and not just a flavor of the month thing.
You just kind of tapped into one of my, I guess, pet peeves about our industry, is that I think we do a lot to improve sustainability, to create efficiency, and that message just doesn't get out there. And I think we need to do a better job of communicating with the public about what our industry is all about and the contributions that we make. Anyway, enough said. That's my soapbox and my particular pet peeve.
And we all agree with you on that, Holly. We think we as an industry need to do a better job to say how protecting the environment we are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And also in an understandable way, because I think that is really an issue that we have. It's something that is both positive and negative. It's always the same people around. So at the end of the day, we take so much for granted because for us, some things are obvious. So then we have really difficulty explaining things to people that are outside of the industry, because
right.
we rarely need to do it. And that is really making our value tangible and understandable for the public and not only for people in the industry.
Okay, I have some questions from some of the members. I'm going to go through those, and we have a few of them. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some out there. And I don't know if you all can see the questions, but this is from one of our attendees. I see a lot of sustainability initiatives at a corporate level, but struggle to see it manifest in more of a transactional level of the same organization, e.g. adding bio-based products in their portfolio or using it in their actual vehicles. How can marketers help these companies in achieving their own sustainability goals? Does someone want to tackle that?
So it sounds like the challenge is how to implement sustainability in an organization. Is that the question?
I think it's how can marketers help these companies in achieving their sustainability goals? I guess I don't know if he's referring to customers or.
Yeah, I just thought the marketers are kind of where I'm stuck at least. But I think I think if you're I think the suppliers of sustainable raw materials, let's just take that. I think they have a lot of really good ideas, and I think one of the things is that the conversation has to broaden a little bit from just supplier and customer. I pick up your product and I use it, to, here are the challenges that I have that go just beyond formulating. I've got pressures from my customers, from my community to achieve sustainability. You guys, that's what you do. You're experts at it. And how can we take what you guys are doing and implement it? So I guess the thing to me is broaden the conversation with suppliers or people that have experience with sustainability or ESG concepts, and talk differently about it. It's kind of hard to do sometimes, but I think that's my best thing that I would say is, again, just expand the conversation.
I think sometimes that people in the executive suite say, hey, we're going to be carbon neutral by pick a date, 2025, 2030, 2050, and then go set their people out to go do it. And it may be done by a memo or a press release or something like that. And I think there's a lot of really well-meaning people who are struggling within some of these organizations, not necessarily the lubricant manufacturers, but maybe an OEM or a producer of something not lubricant. And they're scrambling to find ways to improve their sustainability. And I think as a lubricant marketer, what we need to do a better job is identifying those companies that have this initiative, are looking for a way to reduce their carbon footprint or improve their sustainability or their ESG scorecard, and show them that we do have a solution that fits it, whether it's a bio-based product or a re-refined product or an energy efficient product or a long oil drain life. And we marketers need to go into maybe this, the health, safety, and environmental person within an organization and make that discussion or make that pitch, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good point. I got a couple of comments here. Sustainability often starts as a grassroots movement. Has ILMA surveyed its members' position on sustainability? Do we, as an industry association, encourage this effort? If so, what initiatives? That's a long question. Should we drive for it? Do we follow EU? We have not surveyed our members on this topic. Maybe that's something we should look at. And I think whether we encourage the effort would be, up to our leadership, our board, and leadership of the association in terms of what role ILMA would play. So thank you for your comments. If you want to give more, information or have further questions, shoot me an email. But so far we have not done any surveys on this topic. I got another question. I am not aware it is a relevant question, but related to sustainability. But bothering me that Energy Efficient Directive, EED, requires audits and energy management systems. Kindly let me know, does ILMA Group have those qualified auditors to monitor or train ILMA members? No, we don't at this time. I don't know if anyone, any of you would be aware of that type of program. No. Okay. No. Then I got a comment from George Morvey. Mark is correct about his assessment of the lubricants industry in producing products that enable longer drain intervals, reduce friction, as such, lower carbon footprints. in its simplest form, a synthetic PCMO that enables a vehicle owner to change oil 1 time per year rather than 3 to 4 times per year is not that long ago, is a significant improvement that must be communicated to the general public. Absolutely agree. You know, I get questions from time to time when people ask me what I do, and I tell them, I answer the question, and they say, oh, by the way, you know, should I be using those synthetic motor oils? Are those any good? You know, they cost more. You know, I'll just get random questions like I got from an Uber driver one day. And so, you know, it just goes to show how much education is needed and how we need to do a better job, which is something, again, I said, my pet peeve, that we are not doing, I think, what we need to do in communicating the contributions of our industry. Let's see if I got one more question. Of the 3 sustainability pillars, which one doesn't get enough attention? Does anyone know the answer to that? Does anyone know what the 3 pillars are?
What we are trying to do really is covering all sustainability pillars, because I remember many, many years ago when ABB, quite a large electricity transformer supplier, made a first sustainability audit, and we are talking about 15 years ago. What they looked at was HR, was what kind of contract we had, was what was the gender distribution, what kind of contracts we had with our subcontractors, child labor, how were we sure that we did. So in reality, we are biased. We are a bunch of engineers that are naturally prone to think only about emissions, about resource utilization. In fact, the economical society aspects of sustainability are equally important and shall also be taken into consideration.
Yeah, I think Simon clarified his question by saying social, environment, and governance, the same thing as ESG, I think. And of those, which one doesn't get as much attention? Your opinion on that, anyone?
I think governance is probably the one that doesn't get the most attention. You know, with environmental and social, it involves more of an organization, so it's easier to demonstrate those. When it comes to governance, that's really a C-suite or an ownership topic, and it can be sometimes hard to demonstrate governance, especially if you're a smaller organization. You may not have, if you're a publicly owned company, you know, you've got a lot of governance you got to deal with. But a smaller company may be kind of hard to demonstrate your commitment to the governance piece of ESG, and I think it's something that is probably the biggest challenge for any organization, especially the ILMA membership. I think is governance is going to be the hardest one to really demonstrate. And if you can find ways, like, you know, we talked about diversity, woman-owned companies, that type of thing, and just how you can show anything that you're doing from how you really operate your organization, and from a governance standpoint is important, but it's really difficult, I think.
Well, on that note, I think this was a great conversation. I really appreciate Valentina, Mark, and Richard for participating. I think this is a good starting point for ILMA in terms of raising this issue and getting the message that we need to be communicating out there. So thank you for this. Thanks everyone for joining us. Look forward to our next session, March 17th, on OSHA's new hazard communication standard revisions, and watch your email inbox for registration information coming soon. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.